I want to bring in James Heale now, the Deputy Political Editor of The Spectator. James, great to talk to you this morning.
Thank you, Peter.
Tell me how the government is reacting to the Andrew news. We had David Lammy, of course, in the Middle East. I think it was in Dubai or perhaps Saudi Arabia yesterday at a big AI conference. I think it was Saudi Arabia, sorry. And we have, of course, Starmer has been asked about this, but they're trying to keep well away from it, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that Keir Starmer said many times that if there's grounds for a police investigation, then that should go ahead, of course. And I think right now they're just watching all this take up all the airwaves, and they want to keep their head out of it. They are trying to not sort of get involved, obviously, police investigation, and I think they're just happy to kind of keep it all at arm's length.
No doubt Mandelson, further allegations and perhaps even an arrest may happen. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens in the next couple of weeks. There have been searches there, of course, the police putting together the evidence at the moment, and that will bring things squarely back to the government, won't it, if that happens?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at the allegations against Prince Andrew, reports in the newspapers today about potentially sort of handing over some of those documents which he had as trade envoy, you would think that given the allegations against Peter Mandelson, one can see a similar arrest happening in that case if there is sufficient evidence for it. At that point, of course, all those sort of questions will be re-emerged. And the other thing, of course, Peter, is that we come back from recess next week, Parliament does, and after that, you'd expect to see the release of those so-called Mandelson files, all those documents between Mandelson and members of the government, which the Conservatives have been pushing for. So this will probably reignite the issue.
Certainly. I want to talk about the UK blocking Donald Trump from using RAF bases for strikes on Iran. Just tell me about this. It's a diplomatic and a military row as well. We're going to talk to Colonel Simon Diggins in a few minutes' time to go do a deep dive, but certainly from the political perspective, James, what are the issues here?
So I think there's two issues, really, one of which is about sort of international law and the question of whether it's being applied. It's been obviously a very vexed issue for this Labour government in office and in opposition as well. The questions around Gaza, was Israel breaking international law there? And so I think there's an interesting question about whether, hang on a sec, if the UK is sort of defending international law by not letting the US use these bases potentially against Iran, does that mean that somehow we have an application of international law that the US doesn't? That's going to be one for the lawyers to thrash out. And the second thing is about the real politic of all of this, which is that I think that everyone is very wary in the Labour Party about potentially escalating the Iranian crisis. This seems to be the great thing that we're almost sleepwalking towards. Obviously, I know that Epstein and everything is taken out of the airwaves, but I think that there is a concern in government about how this could escalate. And so they're obviously very concerned, not just for legal reasons, but for sort of political and peacekeeping ones, not to do anything that might help Donald Trump escalate the cause of a war in Iran.
We'll get into that in more depth with Colonel Simon Diggins in just a few minutes' time. Let's talk about the new Cabinet Secretary, Antonia Romeo, making staff join a non-binary book club. As one of my texters very kindly pointed out, if it's a non-binary book club, surely the pages will fall apart.
That is a very good line, and someone knows their books, clearly. Look, I think that Antonia Romeo was someone who has risen through Whitehall, and that's the pros and cons that come with it. You know, she's the longest-serving permanent secretary in Whitehall, and there's a reason for that, is that she's gone along with the orthodoxies of the age. And I don't think it's a great surprise. You think about, for instance, 2018, when the Conservatives, people like Penny Mordaunt, were considering adopting self-ID and sort of pushing for that being discussed in Whitehall, that also the Cabinet Secretary now has was suggesting things about non-binary books, etc. So I think it's another example, perhaps, of how things that seemed like a great idea at the time and how it's all fashionable Whitehall orthodoxy actually end up sort of coming back to bite them.
It's very interesting. Antonia Romeo telling a civil servant to join a gender non-conforming book club as part of their performance review. The employee was told to spend up to 20% of their time fulfilling inclusivity goals, such as encouraging colleagues to display their preferred pronouns and recruiting non-binary staff. I mean, this was a day a week that she was meant to do. This was between 2017 and 2021. So you're right, when that sort of peak woke previously between 17 and 21, as you say. What sort of Cabinet Secretary do you think she's going to be?
I think that I would refer to the comment I got yesterday from one official who said that after she replaced the plodding Chris Wormold, that the hare had finally beaten the tortoise. And I think that she will be a fast-paced Cabinet Secretary, a lot of attention on her. I think she's going to grab a lot of headlines, and I can't yet see how it's going to end, but it's a marked contrast with what's come before her, and it's a marked contrast with our somewhat plodding Prime Minister too.
James, thank you. We will see what happens with Antonia Romeo, who is going to be the new Cabinet Secretary. She's in day 2, of course, big constitutional implications for her with Andrew as well. She has a role within that. James Heale, their deputy political editor of The Spectator. Lots more.